Patrick. We're cooking at home with the real Lombardinos, and we're still under quarantine here with the coronavirus, so we're cobbling together some pastas that we can make easily at home. We're going to start with a Bucatini Carbonara. The pasta we're using, Bucatini, is a thick spaghetti that has a hole running through it. Very traditional for Roman-style carbonara. We're going to go with guanciale that we had. We have access to these things, obviously, because we own a restaurant. Guanciale is the cured pig's cheek, the guancia, and this is a real traditional cut of cured pork that's used in all the dishes of Rome. We have some farm fresh eggs, pecorino romano, and carbonara wouldn't be carbonara without a healthy dose of freshly ground black pepper. We also feel like we could do a vegetarian version. We have a lot of vegetarians in our family, and we use smoked pasilla chilies from Oaxaca, Mexico, and that gives it that kind of bacony quality that you're looking for without adding pork to the dish. And I think this would be a great dish for you to make at home right now, it doesn't matter what kind of pasta you have. You can make it with rigatoni, spaghetti, the bucatini obviously, and then you can add any kind of cured meat you have. If you have a little bit of ham, a little end of a salami you want to dice up, some regular American style smoked bacon would be great. Throw some peas in there, Parmesan, whatever cheese you have. We're going to try to stick to a real traditional Roman style carbonara, but feel free to play with this and use up whatever you have in your pantry. So I'm going to take this guanciale and I'm going to cut it into lardons, which are thick strips of bacon. We'll get that ready to go into our pan and crisp up, and that'll be the basis of our sauce for the carbonara. So I'm doing just little thick strips. And then we'll set those aside and we'll get on to what we're going to do with our eggs for the dish, which complete the sauce. So I have all of my guanciale diced up here and ready to go into the pan. I'm going to set that aside. And then I'm going to take this chili that I have. Now I special ordered these from Mexico. These are the pasilla de Oaxaca. It's a smoked pasilla chili that's specific to the city and the region of Oaxaca. If you wanted to use the chili as a substitute for the meat to give you that smokiness and a little bit of spice, I would recommend going to your local Mexican grocery store, and they have a couple different chilies. They have dried chipotle, which is kind of a chocolatey brown chili, and they also have a morita, which is a spicy little chili that's also smoked. So those give you a great smoky quality. And I'm just going to take these and roughly chop them up, and they're pretty tender. And I'm going to set them aside and go into how I prep my eggs. You want to have your mise en place, everything together, all in its place before you go to the stove and start your cooking. So these are ready. I'm just going to set these aside, and they're going to give everything a little bit of a smoky kick. Now, like I had said, you could do the carbonara with just the chilies in place of the pork, but because our family loves spicy food, we're going to add the chilies to the carbonara. So carbonara is spaghetti with bacon and eggs. And we're going to use some farm fresh local eggs, and I'm going to show you how I separate them. I'm going to use more yolks than whole eggs. We're going to whip that together with our cheese. We're using the pecorino romano, very traditional. Like I said earlier, you could also use Parmesan, whatever hard grating cheese you have in the house. We're going to separate the whites, and we're going to use the whites to make omelets for breakfast tomorrow. So we're not throwing anything away. So this way, I'm just going to do it with my hands. I have my trash can open here. And I'm going to put the whites actually over here. Keep the yolks, because I want this to be a really rich sauce. So we're going to use a few whole eggs, but we're going to use mostly yolks to give it a nice bright yellow color and a richness. So you can fish that yolk right out of there. Just using your hands to kind of be a little bit of a sieve. And we got it. I'm going to throw 4 yolks in here for a pound of pasta, and then I'm going to put 2 whole eggs in here. And the way we bring the sauce together, we're going to use pecorino romano to whip into here, and then we're going to use some of the salty pasta water that we're boiling the pasta in. So here, I take the eggs, set aside the whites, 4 yolks, 2 whole eggs. I'm going to whisk these up. And then I'm going to slowly add a little bit of pecorino cheese into them. And I want this to be a thick, very bright yellow consistency, and this is going to be added into our hot pasta, and it's going to create that rich, thick, creamy sauce. So one more spoonful pecorino in there. It's nice and thick. We'll add more cheese and pasta water as we go and build the dish. And we're going to set this aside, and then we're going to head to the stove and start cooking. So the next step in making our carbonara is to add a little bit of olive oil to a skillet. I kind of have this preheated, and I want to crisp up my guanciale. So I have this over a pretty high flame. I'm going to turn it down to medium. Just let it crisp up gently. And this is a pretty salty cut of pork, so we're not going to add any salt to this. So that's going to take a few minutes. We're going to let that sizzle. Kind of spread it out so everything isn't too overcrowded. And then we're going to boil our bucatini. When we make pasta, we use a giant pot of rolling boiled water because we want that pasta to have enough room to swim around in there. And we generously salt the water so that it tastes almost like the sea. And I take my bucatini, and on the package, it says to cook for 5 to 7 minutes. I'm going to cook that probably 4 to 5 minutes because I want it to finish in my sauce. And we're going to drop that in here. Let it kind of wilt down into the pot, and then we'll give it a stir. Bring it back to a rolling boil for about 4 minutes. So my guanciale is crisped up really nicely over a low flame, and my bucatini is ready to drain. It's very al dente, so to the tooth. It's still about 3/4 of the way cooked. And I'm going to ladle off some of the starchy water. It's starchy, it's salty, and this is going to be used to finish our sauce. I'm going to take the pasta over to the sink and drain that in a colander. Cooking at home does have its own challenges. I mean, I've got to step over Ollie, our dog, who is never a challenge when we're in the restaurant. But now I'm going to work on finishing my sauce here. There's a lot of fat here in the pan that we could drain that off, but I'm going to keep it in because that's going to give me a lot of flavor in my sauce. So to finish this off, I'm going to raise my heat up just a little bit. And because we like it spicy, we're going to add those toasted smoked chilies that we got from Mexico. And then a lot of black pepper going in. Freshly ground. I want to have a good kick of pepper so it kind of stings. Some people don't realize that if you use a good dose of black pepper, it does add a nice bite, a nice sharp spice to your dish. Now I'm going to ladle in a little bit of pasta water. And that's going to start to reduce a little bit, commingle with all of the rendered fat that came off of our pork. And I'm going to add my pasta in. So this is kind of finishing right here in the sauce. We want to just lightly toss that around. Use the tongs, fold it in so it gets coated with all that delicious guanciale, some of that starchy water that we used. And then we're going to mix in our eggs and pecorino. We'll use a little bit more water as we go if we think the sauce is getting too thick. But the big thing here is we don't want to scramble our eggs. So we want to do this over a medium heat. We want to really gently fold this in. So now I'm going to take all those eggs, egg yolks, and pecorino cheese, fold that mixture right into the pasta to coat. Give it a little toss. And now we've got a bacon and egg pasta that we like to eat for breakfast here. Usually on special occasions, it's our Thanksgiving or our Christmas breakfast around the house. And it's really, you can smell the smoky chilies on there, giving it more of an American style bacon flavor. And I'm going to ladle in a little bit more pasta water. Turn off my heat. Toss it around. We'll spoon in a little bit more of the pecorino. We want that just to gently melt into a creamy sauce. And then I'm going to plate that. Now I'm going to plate my dish. I have my bucatini. Make sure that I get a little bit of that guanciale on top. We're going to sprinkle a little more pecorino romano over the top. Finish it with a good dose of freshly grated black pepper, and that's our Bucatini Carbonara. Thanks for watching The Real Lombardino's Cooking at Home. We appreciate you viewing. Just click on our link below to subscribe to The Real Lombardino's and leave us a comment and let us know what you'd like us to cook next. Thanks. Ciao.